We are joined by Oklahoma student-athletes Maddie Williams, Taylor Robertson, and Skylar Vam. We will go right into questions. We'll go on the far right to start.
Tyler DeLuca, Game Day U Hoops. This is for Skylar. Obviously, you were hurt during the Big 12 tournament, and it seemed like it was pretty much up to the deadline when it comes to you being cleared. Can you kind of walk us through, how that process went and the emotions that you felt when you knew that you were going to be able to play in March Madness?
I spent a lot of time with our trainer, Brittany, and she's been like my best friend this week. But my teammates just had my back, and I feel like it was a little bit emotional, but since they were there for me, I feel like I would be fine. So,
Hi, guys. John Hoover, Sports Illustrated Sooners. So I'd like all three to answer it. Skylar, you can go first. We'll just go down the line. When you think of Notre Dame women's basketball and you think of 9 Final Fours and 2 national championships and one of the blue bloods of the sport recently had a Hall of Fame coach retire, when I say Notre Dame basketball, what do you guys think of before you think of playing them here tomorrow night?
we're just happy to be here and just to play like in this moment. It's pretty great. So that's how I feel.
And obviously, they're a great program. They have a lot of accolades. But, yeah, we're just going to make sure that we focus on ourselves. As long as we handle our business on the court and bring our own energy, then I feel like we should be fine.
Yeah, what they said. Obviously, a great program, a lot of history there. But we're just more worried about ourselves.
Front left with the next question.
Ryan Aber from the Oklahoman. Maddie, I want to ask you this first, and Taylor, I'd like you to answer it afterwards. You talked last night about the last few years and how rough they'd been compared to this one. What was maybe the toughest thing or the toughest moment during that time? And, when did you feel like you were this season had a chance to be, significantly different?
I think a couple of the roughest moments was winning 8 games our freshman year. And then after that, we got better as time progressed, but we just couldn't get over that hump. We couldn't get over that wall. But we knew that we were good. We were hanging in with some of the best teams in the nation, in the country. And we just needed to figure out how we were going to be able to finish games and come out with wins. And ever since last year, I guess we started to kind of see that we could hang with everybody and we could compete even with 6 people. So imagine what we could do with a full roster. I think that last year helped us see that.
I agree with all that, especially late last year. That's kind of when we started to play really well together, and we started to translate that into wins. And I think that kind of carried over into this year with all of the experience we had and all the new people and new staff and everything. And I think that it just built over time.
We'll continue on the right side, second row.
Yeah, Cliff Brunn, Associated Press. Taylor, what are some of the things that teams do to try to keep the ball out of your hands that are maybe unique or maybe have changed over the last couple of years? You've always been a good shooter, but this year in particular, really, really good year. What are people doing?
Obviously they're face guarding me. Even sometimes, right as I cross half court, they're already right in my face, just trying to not let me touch it at all. I think that, and then they just follow me around and they are always aware, and I think that that has been a little bit different than some of the years.
Right side, first row.
Nick Coppola, OU Daily. This is a question for Maddie and Taylor. Just you guys have been here for a long time. You guys are 2 of the senior leaders on this team. It was a struggle for most of you guys' careers to get to this point where you guys are in the tournament after having not so great seasons before then. Just what has it taken just to have this kind of a quick turnaround to where now you guys have won a tournament game, and what's going to be required to keep this kind of success up?
I think it's just our belief that we have in each other and in the program has been able to help us get these wins and pull out wins and just have a great year this year, and even a little bit last year, starting to see how we can play with each other and how well we play with each other, and that we're kind of a force to be reckoned with. So Yeah.
Yeah, going off that, I think that since we're such a team with great depth, I think that'll help with the quick turnarounds. Since we play again tomorrow when we just played last night, I think that we have so many people that can contribute and do everything on the court. I think that definitely helps being able to have a quick turnaround and still be just as good as we were last night.
Left side, first row.
Skylar, for you, I wanted to ask about the emotional swing from last Saturday to this Saturday. What was that like for you? What were you thinking when you went off the court in Kansas City? And just when did you get a sense that you would be able to play yesterday?
After Kansas City, I was scared. I was really scared. I didn't really know. Doctors were like talking to Brittany, and I wasn't sure what was gonna happen. But I mean, over time, I just felt like every day I was just getting better and better. And with Brittany, like we just did everything we could to get me to this point today.
Right side, first row.
Yeah, Maddie, you mentioned a few minutes ago finishing last year with 6 players down the stretch and how crazy that was. Every game you didn't know who was going to be available, but 6. And then Taylor, if you could address too, you just spoke about the depth on this year's team. That's 2 completely different things, finishing with 6 and then having depth as a luxury. If you guys could expound on those a little bit. Kind of what those meant to, what that situation last year meant to this year's team.
No, yeah, I mean, it definitely put a sense of the fact that we could hang with people with 6 players, and those six players where you never knew what positions you were going to have on the floor. A lot of times it was all 5 guards, and we just had to figure it out, and that just showed us that we could face adversity and we could push through. And I mean, I don't know, it was one of the funniest years that I've had here, just to be able to go out and not know what was going on, how many people we would have, who we would have, and just to go and hoop. Like, that's all that we were worried about.
Yeah, when we had 6, since we didn't know which 6 it would be, when we'd be playing with 5 guards, a lot of times we thought we'd be at a disadvantage because we had a lot more of the smaller guards instead of the bigger guards. And it would still be like a matchup problem with other teams because they might be bigger, but on the offensive end. But when we play offense, who are they going to guard? How are they going to guard? Because they're going to have to come out on the perimeter. We'll just be able to shoot over them. And being able to find different ways to win last year with 6, I think that has helped this year because a lot of the 6 or 7 or 8 that were available last year now we're back, and that depth and experience has definitely helped in all ways this year.
Far right.
Tyler DeLuca, Game Day U Hoops. Taylor, we could start with you because Maddie said in Kansas City that you were the resident bracket watcher for the team and everything. Obviously, there's a lot less time to scout Notre Dame compared to what you guys had with IUPUI. What do you guys what have you guys seen so far that maybe whether it was last night in the game or anything like that? Because you guys did a great job predicting last night's game. You were pretty spot on about it when I asked you pregame. So what are you guys kind of expecting from this game, Taylor, if you want to start, and Maddie and Skylar, if you have anything to add, that'd be great too.
Notre Dame, they're a great basketball team. They have a lot of great players. They have a really good freshman guard, Olivia Miles. She's really good. She's fun to watch. And they have quite a few shooters, so we'll have to make sure that we are knowing the scout and know who we're guarding and how we're going to guard according to that.
Yeah, I mean, they're good, and I'm excited to go play. I'm excited to go play somebody I haven't played before, and kind of showcase our talent on that platform.
Yeah, I agree with Maddie and Taylor. I think they're a good team, but we're just going to go out there and have fun and play.
Any additional questions? We'll go to the left here.
Yeah, for all of you, I guess starting with Taylor, going to Maddie, and then Skylar, I want to ask you about Coquise Washington. What was your experiences like around her last year, and what's it like now here in the NCAA tournament about to face her team?
It'll be really cool to go against her. It was really fun when she was here. She was fun to be around. She was a really good coach. So it'll be really exciting to face up against her and her team.
Yeah, it was cool having her around, and just the insight that she brought, along with her high energy and just her. I don't know, she was just fun. And we still talk. I got a chance to talk to her yesterday before the game, and we just embrace each other. And I was like, I can't wait to play y'all in the next round, regardless of what happened. I can't wait.
I didn't really have her as a coach. She did recruit me though, so I mean, it was like nice talking to her and everything. But I mean, I believe what they're saying about it is awesome. So
We'll go to the right, second row.
Clay Horning, Norman Transcript. I'll ask Maddie, but if anybody wants to add, feel free. I believe you played emotion offense under Sherry. You're playing emotion offense now, but I'm also pretty sure they're two pretty different offenses. Maybe it's improvisation, but what is the difference? What do you do now that you didn't do then?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. Sherry had a lot of, Coach Cole had a lot of set plays and telling us where to go and where we were going to be. But she also taught us how to make reads, and I think that translates over to what Jenny is teaching us in her motion offense. But Coach Cole laid that foundation for us to be able to do that on our own, and now Jenny is just kind of expanding on what we've already learned, and now we can use that to help her teach the younger kids how to read and react to defenses.
Is the difference that it's all reads? I mean, there is no set.
Yeah. No, yeah. Majority of, probably 90% of what Jenny tells us to run is, or what she's teaching us, her offense is motion, and probably about 60, 70 was probably Coach Cole. But, I mean, she still, even if it wasn't all reads, she was still teaching us how to make those reads within her offense.
Right side, front row.
I'm gonna start, well, a question for all three of you. I could just go to Skylar and then we'll just go down the line. I want to talk about you guys' practices. I was there watching you guys practice for the first 15 minutes before you guys played IUPUI, and it was very intense. You guys were just very, very upbeat. The energy was pretty high, and it was just kind of intense. So I just wanted to ask you guys, how crucial is it to you guys just game plan and game preparation to have those kind of practices where you guys are really intense, really high energy, and everything like that?
it's good that you saw that, because I feel like that's our big thing, is just having that high energy in practice and like having that consistently through. And our game plan is just to go out there and play, and of course like no personnel, but at the end of the day, just do what we do.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was good.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Maddie, Taylor, and Skylar. You are now dismissed.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
You will be joined. head coach, Jenny Baranczyk. We will go right into questions, and we'll start on the left first row.
Ryan Aber from the Oklahoman. Jenny, we just talked to Taylor, Maddie, and Skylar, and they talked about the struggles of last year, especially practicing with six, playing with six quite a bit, but how that helped their confidence that this year was going to be better. What was your judge of this team's confidence when you arrived, and how did you go about managing that, especially early, once you got here?
Well, I think every team kind of went through some challenges last year, and what I think is so phenomenal about this group is just the resiliency. And so from a confidence standpoint, I think you've been able to see that, a steadiness and a smile and just the way that they can respond to things that are a little bit tough. I think, when did I see that? I don't know, probably right away when we first got here. A lot of times, I never thought about it this way, but you have to have confidence in yourself and your team when a new coach comes in and you're open. And I think that's something that I probably saw it right from the beginning. But then in terms of when you're on the court with people, I think you kind of see it as practice goes on. But I think especially with our tough non-conference schedule, to be able to see us respond in a lot of those situations really started to be able to get a little bit deeper in terms of us as a coaching staff being able to see their confidence grow. Because there's one thing about being a confident player, and there's a whole other thing in being confident in your team.
We'll stay on the left side and go to the second row.
Hi, Jenny. Jesse Crittenden, Norman Transcript. Just wanted to ask, with getting the win last night, especially against a team you kind of had to put away late, does that help with the feeling of just settling into the tournament? I mean, how big is that with the mindset?
I hope so, right? No, but it's tournament time. It's March Madness. I mean, I think the biggest thing in terms of looking at this tournament as a whole, and every year, especially in women's basketball, there's more upsets, right? In men's basketball, there have been upsets a lot over the years. And so in women's basketball, I think you're really starting to see that parity. And so from that standpoint, I think it helps you, yes, get any kind of a win in this tournament is huge, right? But being able to play through some things, have a home court, because there's a little bit of pressure in that. There's a little bit of unknown in that. You're playing a good team. So I think your confidence just builds as time goes.
We'll go to the right side, front row.
Nick Coppola, OU Daily. Last night just seemed like a game where just a lot of things were clicking. You guys were good on defense, and you held them to, I think, 20% something from three-point range. You guys were really good on offense with 78 points. You guys hit 8 threes. Just how important is it, especially at this stage of the season, to have those games where just everything is going, everything is clicking, and just everyone on the floor seems to be doing something good?
Well, I need to sit in your seat because I wasn't sure everything was clicking the whole time last night. But no, honestly, I think it's fun to be able to watch us be in a game and be able to manage it, and we still have so many learning opportunities as well. So I think from that standpoint, I am glad that we made some adjustments at halftime. I think that was a really big deal for us to be able to make some adjustments and to be able to really carry those out. So I think from that standpoint, that part was really good for us, and that's where we have to continue to make, because you're going to continue to have to make adjustments as time goes. I mean, we're going to play an opponent that has such balanced scoring, and so you got to manage the game as the game happens. You can prepare as much as you want, but you still have to be able to make adjustments. So that's what I was really happy with last night.
We'll stay on the right side, second row.
Yeah, Cliff Brunn, Associated Press. Olivia Miles, what stands out about
Well,
her?
maybe her triple double. I mean, right? No, I mean, I think her vision, her ability, because you have to be able to guard her as a team. I mean, she's such a, I mean, she can put the ball in the hole. She can score in a variety of ways, but she just makes everyone around her better. And so that is such a challenge as an opponent, but great for the game.
Right side, front row.
John Hoover, SI Sooners. Regarding Ryan's question about what they called last year's Super Six, finishing the season and finishing so many games throughout the season with just 6 players and winning those games, winning a lot of them. Did you hear any horror stories, about how tough it was, minutes played or anything like that when you got one-on-one with the girls when you got here? Or, and then could you see how that kind of finish would toughen them up for what's happened this year, all the close wins that we talked about last night?
I think the phenomenal thing about this group is they're proud of that. There weren't the horror stories. There were, some of it was in February when we're still practicing, and they're like, wait a second, we didn't really get to practice much a year ago, and this year we got to practice a little bit more because we have a little bit more depth. So it might have been more horror from this year than it was from last year, but I think, the stories that they talk about, being able to do that again goes into the resiliency, goes into, nothing's too big or too small for this team, especially at those end of game situations. I think living, where they can really trust each other because you have to. But I think you can definitely see that has propelled them. And I think most teams that went through last year in terms of, it wasn't that easy living in the bubble, right, with your team. And I think some teams separated and some teams really connected. And I think this is a team that really connected, and you can see it this year.
We'll stay on the far right and go to the third row.
Joey Helmer, OUinsider.com. Kind of along those lines, you've coached in a number of these, and how critical is it having a couple of veterans like Maddie and Taylor that have been through some of the pressure-packed moments of the season, but the rest of the team can kind of lean on them in close game situations late in the tournament?
Well, I think those two just do a phenomenal job of being able to just be themselves, and we've talked about that all season. Instead of trying to carry everybody and say, okay, come jump on my back. I think when when Maddie just plays how Maddie plays, she tends to have this incredible leadership around her and raises the level of everybody else. When Maddie really tries to coach everybody else, it's a little bit more difficult for her to be able to focus on what she needs to, and I feel like Taylor's the exact same way. So I think from their standpoint, I've loved watching their progression of really them gaining confidence and learning how to lead. Because sometimes when you lead, you think you got to fix everybody else, and you got to tell them what to do, and you got to call them up, and you got to have this standard. And sometimes, yes, that does happen, but for the most part, it's you being your best every single day, and then the people around you tend to be their best every single day. So that's what's been fun to be able to watch them. So it doesn't matter if it's in practice, and it doesn't matter if it's this game in the NCAA tournament. I think that's been really great progression for both of them this year.
We'll stay on the right side, second row.
Yeah, Coach Taylor, I just want to ask you about how she affects the game and what kind of things teams do to guard her that are different than what they do against normal players.
Right. Yeah, Taylor's everything but normal, I guess, in a variety of ways. And she would appreciate that if she was sitting here. I would say the exact same thing. But no, I think, Taylor, everyone has to game plan for Taylor. Nobody just says, okay, yep, here, she's a shooter. Everybody has their game plan for her, especially in transition. They really try to find her. So she does an incredible job, I think, as the season's gone on, is her player movement, right, in terms of whether or not she uses a screen or she cuts to the basket or – I think there's times that she wants to shoot threes and she'll stay outside that three-point line. But I think as time has gone on, she's done an incredible job of really cutting to the basket. But she also is an incredible passer. And I think that's a little bit underrated because when she has the ball in her hands, she can really create some things for some other people. She just draws so much attention.
Right side, far right.
Tyler DeLuca, Game Day U Hoops. Jenny, obviously, this is going to be a little bit different than the preparation for IUPUI just because of the time frame that it's just such a quick turnaround. So for your team, is it more focusing on just individual stuff like within your own team and working on that, or is it game planning for Notre Dame with that quick of a turnaround?
We will do some things to focus on us. Our practice will be obviously very light today and mostly just a walkthrough. We didn't get out of here till after midnight last night, so we'll be pretty smart and keep them fresh for tomorrow. But definitely you got to be able to prepare for them as much as you can. And the biggest thing I think too is trying to find the similarities in common opponents. And so, or not common opponents, but opponents that we've had. So that is nice to be able to do that. And again, I go back to the great conference that we get to play in the Big 12, and you see such a variety of play and styles. And I think that's what benefits you this time of year now is where you start to see the fruit of that.
We'll stay on the right side, front row.
I want to ask just about the practice that I asked Skylar, Taylor, Maddie while they were up here about that. And just when I got to watch you guys practice, I just got to see just the intensity that you guys practice at and just the built-up energy that you have all throughout the practice. How important is that to you guys as a game preparation and game planning? And also from someone that you actually play defense against your players in practice. Is that true? Is that something that you do? Or
Well, Yes, it is true, and I would like to leave that out of a press conference. But no, but I think especially when you do what you have to do, and that's in terms of coaching. They better have said that I was good on defense, and probably aren't very intimidated by me. So, no, I'm kidding. No, but that is part of it. I love to have an intense practice, and today obviously won't necessarily be that, but. We want to be really competitive. I mean, that's a value of this program, is just to love to compete every day, and part of it's being in it with them. I love that's a coaching style. I'm not going to just tell them what to do. I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about our team. I coach the way that I want them to play. I want to be with them as much as I possibly can. And I think it's fun. I think it's fun for them. I mean, look at our crowd. Our crowd is completely engaged, and I think they fuel off this team, this incredible team. And so that's just my job, is to be able to try to orchestrate that as much as possible.
Right side, second row.
Clay Horning, Norman Transcript. I think you may have just given me part of your answer to this, but this may be a reach. But the day you were hired, I remember you talking about how players are required to be themselves. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal. And they call you by your first name. Mm-hmm. And your offense is about their improvisation, mm-hmm. rather than you telling them where to go. Mm-hmm. Do those things connect in a sort of coaching philosophy that's about empowerment of them, rather than I'm going to show you where you need to go, or something like that?
Yeah. No, 100%. I think there's, we talk about the empowerment of women all the time, and yet we still tell them what to do, right? And so we have to put them in positions. I think that when you cross those lines, you get to learn life skills like problem solving, right? You get to see what teamwork actually is. How do you figure something out? Because I think that's an underrated quality right now, especially as they go away from here. And so, yes, you want to be really competitive. You want to be able to make reads. So I do believe that they can make better reads than we can coach. There's a time and place that we need to make a play call. But if they're making those reads, it's incredible to see what happens. And sometimes, we make reads that maybe I don't agree with. But that's okay. Those are learning moments. And so those are some things, especially fourth quarter management and things like that as time has gone on. But I think Maddie Williams and Taylor Robertson are completely different people. They're completely different players, and yet they work. And it's incredible to watch that they can play to each other's strengths, because they know who they are and they know who each other are. And I think when you have that, that's when magic really starts to happen. I think you've been able to see that throughout the season, especially in our assist numbers and our movement. You can really start to see some of those things. But I think it all goes hand in hand.
We have, hold on, microphone, please.
Sure. Does that connect all the way to a reluctance to call timeouts in the regular season, but a willingness, like last night, even after a made basket? I mean, it's the tournament. Let's get in there and talk about it. But it seemed like over the course of regular season, your preference was to let them figure it out on the court.
Yes, that's a huge part of a teaching tool, especially it's year one in the system. And so we have to be able to learn some of those things. And you'll see also in terms of conversation, there's a lot of times in a dead ball situation that I'll ask Maddie, do we need a timeout? Are we good? Are we not good? Where are we? And they'll say, yep, no, we're good. And then sometimes we're not. And sometimes we are. And so that's where those conversations start to happen. If you watch our timeouts when we do have them, it's not just me talking at them. It is a conversation. And so that's not just development for this team in this year. That's for future years, because you want active participants. You want players that come here and it's not a chess match. It's not my chess match. I want them to be active participants to be able to play this game. It's a beautiful game. It's so much fun. I mean, look at this game. Look at players making plays this time of year. And it's really cool when it's multiple people that it's the pass, it's the hockey assist. I love that. And people love watching that.
We have time for one last question, front row.
Beyond the team that you're playing tomorrow and the season that they've had, when I say NCAA tournament, you're playing Notre Dame, does that ring a bell? Does that resonate with you? Does it resonate with college kids that they're playing a program that has the pedigree that Notre Dame does?
I asked our team that same question earlier, and yes, I mean, you're playing a great team. You're playing, we've already been asked about Olivia Miles. I think most of our players know who she is, and most of our players know who a lot of their players are. And at the same time, we've played some great teams. You know, I mean, we've played Baylor 3 times this season, and they're a 2 seed, you know, and probably could have been a 1 seed. And so we've played some great teams in our league. So I think from that standpoint, you always go in with really high regard and high respect. You still got to compete, and you still got to show up. And so that's really mostly where our focus is.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Coach. That concludes our availability.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll go right into questions.
Ryan Aber from the Oklahoman. I guess first for you, Maddie, and then for Sonia. When you look at OU with Taylor Robertson and Maddie Williams, what really stands out to you about each of those players and the way that they play, especially offensively, in tandem?
I mean, I think just overall, looking at them last night and watching film a little bit, they definitely are aggressive and are big shot makers and takers for their team. So I think we just got to come together and play great defense and do what we know how to do tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to find a way to stop them. I mean, they can do both. They can shoot and they can drive. So we just have to watch out for both. They're double threats, so just got to find a way to lock them down.
Next question. We'll continue in the front row.
And also, I guess that you start off with this one, Sonia, and then Maddie. I want to ask you about Coquise Washington and what it's been like to be around her this year for you, and just what stands out to you about her personality, coaching style, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I love having her as a coach. I've really built a strong bond with her. She just knows so much about the game, so she's really been teaching me a lot, and she's also just really encouraging, so she's going to get on you for, to make you better, but at the same time, just, that she has your back, and she's going to be there for you.
Yeah, she's my position coach, so I'm with her a lot, and we're always in the office watching film or getting shots up, and I've, as well as Sonia, built a really strong bond with her, and that's my dog. I'm really, really close with her, and she knows little things about the game that you don't pick up, even yourself watching film or even with the team, and she just has a whole different perspective, and she's extremely analytical and just brings a different side of the game that you don't pick up just watching, so she's awesome.
Any additional in person? Okay.
One more follow-up to that, Maddie. I don't know if you've had a chance to sit with her or talk to her today or late last night, but what has she told you about some of these Oklahoma players, some of this team that she was around a couple years ago?
I mean, not too much specifically. I think we're just not really focused on her past, whatever. I think we're just focused on how to win this game, how to get to the next round.
Any additional in person? We'll go to Zoom. Anthony Anderson.
Hi, Maddie and Sonia. This question is for both of you. Knowing that you have a great advantage when you play at home, and the fact that Notre Dame's not played a true road game in the NCAA tournament in 9 years, what do you anticipate will be it'd be a challenge anywhere, but what do you anticipate will be, how much steeper will that challenge be tomorrow night playing at Oklahoma?
Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely be hard. I mean, from experience, we know how much energy the crowd can give a team. So given that we're playing at Oklahoma, it's definitely going to be hard, but we just got to find a way to get our own energy and play how we play at home.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a packed house, and I think we're really excited about it, and we're excited for the energy that it's going to bring, and just trying to silence the crowd and come out and play how we know how to.
We'll continue with Zoom. Go to Tyler Horka.
This question is also for both of you guys. We could start with Maddie, but I asked this question to Coach last night after the game. Just how important was it to play a game like last night's where both teams made runs, a lot of stuff happened, and being that this was your first NCAA tournament game for a lot of the players on the team, how valuable was it to get that experience going into a game against Oklahoma?
Yeah, it was a great benchmark for us, and I think starting out a game like that, we started out 10-2, I think, and that was just a great confidence booster. We needed that. We've been slow to come out the last couple games, so that was great for us, and I think going forward, we're just going to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like playing that game, as you said, for a lot of us, it was our first tournament game. So just knowing that the runs are gonna happen. So just like how to deal with them and how to stay calm under pressure and just keep playing our game no matter what happens.
Any additional in-person or Zoom questions? Thank you, Maddie and Sonia. You are now dismissed.
Thank
We'll
you.
be joined by Notre Dame head coach Ivey at 2:35. 2022 NCAA March Madness second round. We are joined by Fighting Irish head coach Niele Ivey. We will go right into questions. We'll stay on the left side.
To Luca Game Day U Hoops. Olivia Miles last night, the triple-double, became the first freshman in men's or women's tournament history to get a triple-double. Can you kind of just talk about her growth over this season and just, the player that she is and how important she is to your team and the fluidity of it?
Right. Just an incredible accomplishment. When I found that out afterwards, I was like, that's just an elite performance. To have the triple-double from the men and women's side is just a credit to her talent. She's very gifted. I think she talked about it last night. She has a special gift. She makes everybody better around her. As far as the season, she has just blossomed. She has been thrown in the fire. She was thrown in the fire last year as an early enrollee. This year, I've required her to do a lot. She has to take on, carrying a team, carrying a program as a freshman, which is a very hard task. But I knew that she was capable of handling it. And I'm just really proud of what she's done. She's a dynamic guard. She sees the floor at a very elite level. She's a high-level player, and I just feel like she's really growing in front of our eyes.
We'll go to the right side, front row.
Ryan Aber from the Oklahoman. Wanted to ask you about OU's Taylor Robertson and Maddie Williams. What kind of unique challenges do they present to a defense, especially when they're playing in tandem the way they do, and what stands out to you about each one of those players?
Well, Robertson is the best three-point shooter in the country. She's on track. I think she's about 50 away from holding the record of three-point field goals, which in women's basketball history, which is incredible. They're both dynamic scorers. We've never seen a shooter like Robertson, so we have a hard task. And also, Maddie Williams, she can score in a variety of ways. She's an undersized forward, but she's also a guard. She can do it all. She can post, she can rebound. I think she's leading them in scoring and rebounding. So we have a huge task on our hands. They play well in transition. They're very physical, and they play well with each other. You can tell their chemistry. Just watching them in person, I was really impressed by the entire team, but the pace, their physicality, and the way that they can score. So we have a super hard task to try to contain those two. But I've been very impressed watching their film, but then also seeing them in person last night.
Any additional in person? We'll go to the front row.
And then also want to ask you about the Coquise Washington. Sorry, I messed. Yeah. What do you remember from her? Back when you were playing. Mm-hmm. And what she brought to your coaching staff now, and did she point you in the direction of any places down here in Norman since she's back?
Well, as my mentor and position coach, she was just really, really smart. I always felt like I was learning so much from her as far as her experience. She had been a WNBA champion. She helped Notre Dame as a point guard lead them to their first tournament appearance. And so I had a lot of respect for her. She's taught me the game. And also, she's so very bright. So she taught me a lot off the court. Just being a student athlete at Notre Dame, I really leaned on her to try to navigate being both a student athlete and student. She really helped in that regard. And she's been she's won at the highest level and won in the WNBA. So that was the reason why I brought her back. She's also just a family friend. I felt like when I had the opportunity to when I got hired, she was the first person that I called because I was like, I need experience, I need loyalty, I need family around me, somebody that I know that knows me well and can relay the messaging. And knows Notre Dame extremely well. So I didn't think I was going to get her. So I worked really hard, to try to bring her from obviously a great university. So that was the reason why that was the first call I made because I know that she knows the game really well. She's been a head coach, and I wanted to make sure that I had experience as I created my staff.
Right side, back row.
Clay Horning, Norman Transcript. From where you're sitting, do you see much of a pattern to OU's motion offense, or is it improvisational to the point that there isn't much of one, and wherever you see it on that scale or on that curve, how difficult is it to defend?
Very difficult to defend. We played Drake 3 years ago, so I kind of have a little bit of idea of the way the system works. But again, it's so many different movements, so many different weapons that we've tried to kind of break it down in their 5-out motion, break down different concepts of it to try to see if we can just figure out the concepts, because one side's, you know, making back cuts, throwing it to the pinch post, the other side setting a flare. There's a lot of movement, so I try to break it down in that way to really understand tendencies and then concepts of their offense. But I think they run really well in transition. And but yeah, it's a very difficult offense. A lot of movement, but they have a lot of scores. So you have to be locked in, and you have to make sure defensively you understand personnel because they can make you pay.
Any additional in-person questions? Yeah.
About that, here recently it seems you talk about OU having several weapons. Here's maybe last 10 games or so, Liz Scott will hit a 3. Nydia Lampkin, if I'm saying her first name correctly, though she's taken very few, has taken a few and hit some. How much more dangerous does that make OU? Maybe not even their aggregate production, the players I mentioned, but just what you have to now defend.
Right. Well, especially they're playing at home, so they're going to feed off the energy of the crowd. So we have to expect that. We have to expect, especially in the tournament. I mean, there's madness. So everyone has an opportunity. They're going to have confidence, and you know, shooters that or drivers that you think aren't shooters, they're going to step up and hit shots in the tournament. You know, saw a buzzer beater last night. You know, versus UMass. So we have to be prepared, and we have to defend the 3-point line, and we have to make sure that we are locked in defensively on every person on OU's team, because again, we're in the atmosphere and environment that everyone's going to raise their level with a game like this. Headed 40 minutes to get to the Sweet 16.
We'll stay on the right side. Go to the second row.
Joey Helmer, 24/7 Sports. Yeah, you're playing on Oklahoma's home court. You kind of just said that, but what extra challenge does that kind of provide for you guys?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. I felt like their crowd was really engaged yesterday, a lot of energy, and they fed off that, and especially in transition. Every basket, I mean, you can feel the energy rising. So we have to play our style of basketball, but have to just try to drown out the noise and just make sure that we're locked in, even as far as the game, because it's going to be a game of runs, and we have to make sure that we are locked in. Fortunately, for being in the ACC, we've had really many tough road opponents, and we've been in crazy environments at UConn, at Georgia Tech, so we are prepared for it. But again, you have to sustain and try to take the crowd out of it with your performance.
We'll stay on the right side. Go to the back row.
Yeah, Cliff Brunn, Associated Press. You have several freshmen that play significant roles for you. How did you feel they handled yesterday, and just what is it about them that makes you confident that they can handle tomorrow's pressure?
Yeah, I was really proud with the young group that we have, the young core, especially Olivia Miles coming out with a triple-double. I think that's self-explanatory. I think Sonia got a foul early. I thought she was a little tentative in the first half, but I thought she turned it on. In the second half, she went on just a 9-0 run herself that helped us extend the lead. So I thought she grew over the course of the game. But again, I feel like, you know, Dara Mabry, Maya Dotson, we had some seniors that really led us, and Maddie Westbell is a sophomore. And again, they're blossoming in front of our eyes, and they're blossoming in front of my eyes. So I was really proud of the way that Sonia responded, but also the way that Olivia led us. She set the tone initially.
We'll go to the left side, second row.
Tyler Luca, Game Day U Hoops. Kind of just more generally for the tournament as a whole. We've now seen, I think statistically, the most upsets in tournament history at this point. Kind of talk about just the parity in women's basketball, the growth from you're seeing mid-majors that are now like upsetting, like Creighton just upset Iowa. So kind of just talk to me about just the growth of women's basketball as a whole, and what do you feel like seeing these upset means for the game and just in its totality?
I think it's amazing for the game. I think having parity is what we've always wanted for the game. I think it was always, you know, the cream of the crop, the 4 or 5 programs, elite programs, and then everyone else. So the fact that we have parity, I think, is amazing for our game. It's growing our game. I think the transfer portal is helping. You know, I think they talked about having. I just saw like Creighton. It was a transfer from Iowa that is at Creighton that hit the 3-pointer that put them up. So I think the transfer portal is helping the parity. You see Kirsten Bell in Florida Gulf Coast coming from Ohio State, the way she's playing this year. So I think it's amazing. It's showing the growth, and it's showing the depth of our game. And no matter if you're a Power 5 or mid-major, there's a lot of talent in women's basketball, and I love it.
Right side, second row.
Naja Woods, ABC 57 News, South Bend. I mean, with so many younger players, and this is their first time here, I mean, how are you really going to be leaning on those older players who have already been here, especially with, OU having the home court advantage?
Yes, I'm going to lean on them a lot. I feel like Abby gave us a big spark yesterday. Abby Prohaska and Maya Dotson are the only two players on my team that have any experience in the NCAA tournament, and I felt like they did a great job. Abby, just with her performance, her energy, the spark that she gave us, her toughness, and Dara was our vocal leader, and Maya also. I heard her a lot in the locker room when we needed a boost, and I feel like Dara and Maya did a great job being vocal, and Abby just did by her performance, and I'm going to rely on them a lot, especially, tomorrow night. It's going to be such a tough game in a really tough environment, and I'm going to really rely on them to really help us. First of all, get us focused and ready for the game outside of, shoot around and my, my pregame speech. They're the three that I'm going to rely on heavily tomorrow night.
Any more in-person questions? We'll go to Ryan Aber in the first row.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about tonight. Does the schedule play out a little bit better for you today versus a couple days ago? And just what's that been like, watching Purdue and your son with, what you're doing here?
It works out perfectly. So I'm so happy, because you never know what the times for as far as practice with NCAA, but I get a chance to watch. We're going to have another game watch in our meeting room, so I get a chance to watch him. We're going to stream it. And I'm excited because both of us have 40 minutes to try to get to the next level we've never been as a player and as a head coach. So I'm excited to support him, and I'm excited to see what Purdue is going to do. And also I'm excited for our men's team. Our men's team is playing tonight. We're going to watch that first, and then I'm going to watch Purdue. So good luck to Mike Bray and our Notre Dame men's basketball team.
Any other in-person questions? We'll go to Zoom. We'll go Tyler Horka to start.
Hey, Neil, obviously you've been a part of a lot of March Madness runs, never as a head coach, but you still know what it kind of feels like. I'm curious if some of those feels are coming back with this group. I know it's young and a little bit inexperienced, but now that you've got a game under your belt, are you sensing some similarities in that some of the things that they're doing remind you of what you guys used to do at Notre Dame in the past in the tournament?
Yes, well, I mean, again, I'm embracing every moment. Every moment is my first. So, super excited to come back here today, to still be in Oklahoma. Yes, I definitely feel the feels of being an assistant and how exciting it is to continue dancing and be a part of the top 32. But I also know how difficult and how challenging tomorrow night's going to be, especially at OU's being an away game and being a home game for OU. So I definitely feel those similarities, but again, everything is my first. So I'm hoping to come in with poise, confidence, and hope that I can instill that in my team tomorrow night.
We'll stay with Zoom and go to Anthony Anderson.
Hi, Neil. You were emphatic last night that pace was a big part of why you were able to beat UMass, and you mentioned that at other times during the course of the season. Oklahoma's number 2 in the country in pace of play. Do you rein in anything based on that, or do you still stay true to you in that regard?
We'll definitely going to stay true to our style and our brand of basketball, so we're going to try to get out and run with OU tomorrow night. We need to get a lot of rest because they're going to be tired. I think both teams, like you said, like to run. Transition defense is going to be huge for us. We have to find the ball, slow it down, and find shooters tomorrow night. I was really impressed by watching OU in person, seeing how fast they played. It's different when you watch on film and when you see it in person. So we have to really lock in and try to find shooters and slow the ball down. But as far as Notre Dame, we got to play the same way. We want to go out and aggressive and attack just as much as they are.
We have time for one more question. Are there any additional questions for Coach? That concludes Notre Dame's availability. Thank you, Coach. A recording of this